It's the summertime, so at this point, it's just who's the most creative person? What can the creative juices come up with? And I have Hunter Bailey here, writer for the Charlotte Observer, also the host and founder of the Highway 49 podcast. We're going to be talking about the best signature moves in the NBA. And this one fascinated me because I remember growing up and seeing Manu Ginobili and his Euro step and Tony Parker's spin and all these moves that those players would go on YouTube and show you how to do step by
Yeah.
step. I used to watch those, right? And go on my driveway and practice those. Do you have any memories of watching those? And what's some signature moves from the past that you maybe still think about today?
Yeah, I could never hit it in a game, but my favorite still is the Rondo, like fake behind the back into whether it's like a scoop layup or any kind of pass to the corner. My brain is just thinking Ray Allen wide open in the corner for three. But yeah, Rondo, I was definitely trying that in the driveway back in the day and turning it over repeatedly.
And what's great about that, and what's great about signature moves in general, is that the NBA, people always say it's so homogenous, people play the same way, but you can find these players that have something. They found something that works for them, and they're able to do it repeatedly and find success. So we will be diving into the top five, three each, honorable mention of us each. So really top eight, but. Let's hop right into it. Hunter, what signature move do you want to start off with current players in today's
Yeah,
NBA?
definitely. So watching a ton of Hornets basketball this year, covering them, you got a front row seat to watching Trey Mann pretty much bud right in front of our eyes. And his combination of moves, step back, snatch back, the space he creates is unreal. He shot 45% on step backs this year, knows exactly how to get to his spots, jerk back, and then just create that space. And he's got counters off it too. You can tell throughout the season, defenders want to step up to that. They know it's coming. Even though he only played in just 13 games, you could tell that's a move he's used at Florida, used in his time at OKC, even though he didn't play a ton, but it really kind of showed the first part of the season in Charlotte. So like I say, 45% on step backs when he was able to get by that defender who was biting for that, reaching their hand in that cookie jar, 47% on floaters, runners, things like that. And you saw it amount to his career best points per game, a little over 14 a game. And what was a pretty fun, like I say, 13 game, six man of the year run. So yeah, his step back move, man, it's so fun to watch, and the space it creates is just incredible.
Yeah, like you said, we saw it in minimal time, but when he was out there, it was fireworks for Hornets fans and reporters like us in that stadium, in that arena, watching him. And like you mentioned, the counters are so big because Trey Mann, when you think of him, you kind of think of that, like you said, AI throwback style. He's pulling up for middies, he's doing all these things. But then he also can turn the corner and immediately get back to that snatch back, kind of throw the defender off guard and find his spot really quickly. We'll have some clips playing while we're all talking about this. And I think that him being a shifty guard was a good wrinkle for the Hornets when you have a guy like Melo who is shifty, but bringing a guy off Trey or off the bench like Trey, man, that can also give you that offensive production was absolutely huge for the Charlotte Hornets.
And it's a different flair too. You're talking about a guy that's 6'2", maybe 6'3", with shoes on versus someone like Melo who's 6'7", who isn't necessarily going to body someone at the rim, but they create space in different ways. And Trey has to be able to create that separation in a phone booth, like almost like a Jalen Brunson, except I think his moves are a little bit more fluid and he's able to find his spots in those ways. When I look at, I mean, Trey just inked a 3-year, $24 million contract to stay in Charlotte. I look at him as primary ball handler off the bench, working with someone like Colin Sexton. I think they're going to be able to score a lot of points and light up a lot of these second units come October.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about the 6'2" guy in Trey Man. Now I want to pivot to my first guy here, Anthony Edwards, his rip through and his decel step. I think both of those
Ooh.
things combined are nice. And I want to give a quick shout out to Shot Creator because we found out a few hours earlier.
Literally today.
This, I felt like a kid in a candy store when I was looking up Trey Man snatchbacks. I'm like, oh wait, I don't have to go on YouTube and look up a certain game and have to find a certain play. Everything was on Shot Creator. This isn't an ad. I'm telling you, just free promo because they're that good. But Anthony Edwards rip through and decel step. I want to start with the rip through because people talk about Steph Curry and his impact and influence in today's game, but James Harden might arguably have a bigger impact on the players rather than the style of play he was known for. Making defenders put their hand in the cookie jar, making them pay the second he felt that contact, and swinging his arms through the lane up into his body for the easy and one. Anthony Edwards has started to do the same when he splits that double or gets downhill or sees a trap coming. He just lays his arms out, gets the swing through, and then is able to easily finish at the rim. He shot 54.2% from the field on these drives on the year, 215 of 397. What do you think of when you see Ant? Because you think crazy dunker, a guy who is getting downhill, who is trying to be in every Adidas poster SVU commercial. However, he can also change his pace of play and use that decel step and rip through to his advantage.
Yeah, the decel is really what sticks out to me as far as keeping a defender on his toes, right? Because they're thinking, okay, I might end up in this poster right now because you see what he's doing around the league. And then he has the ability to push that and then slow it down, brace the contact, more than likely an N1. And we talked about it off air on the Hornets front. If I'm Charles Lee, I'm saying Brandon Miller, year three tape, watch Anthony Edwards, watch these decel moves because that's Brandon Miller has that same type of he'll put you on a poster. He can catch the lob. I mean, him just around the rim last year was a huge growth. So if he adds that to his game, that's when you get to the all-star, all NBA level.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed about Brandon Miller last season that I was pointing out at the games is that when he was getting contact, he was kind of shying away or fading away from it and kind of putting up these weak hook shots or layups that he's falling away from the basket, not going towards it. And to your point, I think Anthony Edwards can draw that contact and stay on balance because of his core strength. Another guy who does this really well, even though he's a rookie, won Rookie of the Year, is Stephon Castle. Has a really good rip through and decel step, but that's because of their strong cores. All right, we're two down. Hunter, let me hear your second pick for your NBA signature move.
Absolutely. So this, I kind of went back and forth on if it counts as a signature move because you see a lot of different players doing this, but Kobe White's ability to, whether it's a ball screen and just to split the double off that, whether it's a blitz, his ability to do that, get immediately downhill. You have the numbers, you weak side, strong side, whatever it is open. Like I say, you're playing with good math at that point. His ability to do that, I mean, he was doing it in North Carolina back in the day. I think he leads the state of North Carolina in high school basketball points. His ability to get to the rim and think about how much he's getting blitzed back then, just pouring in 40 and 50 point games back in high school showcase that North Carolina, his ability to sense that it's coming and be able to work off of that. I've got a couple things written down. You see his ability to get to the rim. He got to the line over four times a game this year. It's top 86% in the league, career high for him. And he was converting on about 54% of his drives. So his ability to get downhill, like I say, manipulate the math on defense. You know this is a 3-on-2, this is a 2-on-1, whatever it is at the hole, and his ability to dish off that at 4.5 assists per game. I just think aesthetically, it's one of the toughest moves in the game because there's so many counters you can have off of it, whether it's getting into a step back once you have that defender, I guess, in jail basically behind you, whatever it is that you would like to do. He's taken that and really added that and developed that in his game, scoring 20 a game this year. I love the move, man. It's one of the toughest, I think, in the league today.
Yeah, I know Kobe White is good, but combing through that film today, Hunter, man, I got a new
He's
sense of
filthy.
appreciation for that guy. Like you said perfectly, he puts defenders in jail and he makes them be at his mercy because
Yeah.
he's able to get them on his hip. And once you're on his hip, it's over with. You can either slow down, draw the foul, or push away from you and have an easy layup or manipulate the defender that's in drop coverage. And like you said earlier with Trey Mann, he has a great counter to this splitting double. I saw a clip that I'll drop in here, maybe not right now, but you'll see it in this kind of trick or this Kobe White segment where he gets the ball. You can tell he's about to rip through, senses the double, and then just goes the other way, away from the screen because he knows, okay, once I get around the screen, they know I want to split that double. Let me just reject the screen, get downhill, and he's a great attacker in general going to the basket. So Kobe White is a great one. Talk about what that does for the Bulls and how he's helped them, even though they've been a perpetual playing team for the last few years.
Definitely. I mean, one of the more streaky shooters in the NBA. He'll have a night where he doesn't like he will have a low shot attempt game and then he'll come out the next game and shoot 25 shots. I think part of the coaching in Chicago, we you mentioned they haven't been where they want to be lately. I'm a huge proponent of getting him to play meaningful basketball because I think he could be a great contributor in the playoffs and maybe not just the play-in. So yeah, his ability both spread the floor, take a ton of threes if it's necessary. I think he took 8, which is the most in his career this past season. He can be a just a shot first two guard and he can facilitate when needed. So yeah, I love his game, man.
Going from a guy who was a relentless driver, kind of still young guy, but not really anymore. I want to pivot to one of the oldest guys in the league, the point guard guru himself, and that's Chris Paul with his yo-yo dribble. That's number 4, his yo-yo dribble and escape dribble, which I think he uses so well in today's NBA. With a guy his size, you can tell that when he gets to that elbow nail area, he's able to throw the ball out to where he wants. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to that for maybe Hunter's next selection. Throws it out to where he wants, gets the ball back, and is able to have the a right amount of separation to be able to rise up. And I was watching Mind the Game yesterday, and Kevin Durant and LeBron were talking about how it's easier to go left and then pull up because you're already balanced and square to the basket. You don't have to do anything with your right arm. It's square. Going right and pulling up is a lot harder because you have to square your shoulders back to the rim in order to get a good shot. And Chris Paul, as they mentioned, is one of the best players at not needing to square his shoulders up. He can bring it down here and then still get the mid-range shot up. Chris Paul, quick stats on him. He's 51.5% from the field on pull-up mid-range jumpers, 53% efficient field goal percentage. To put that into perspective, that's insane. No one's against the mid-range. They're saying if you shoot it well enough, please shoot it. And Chris Paul absolutely does that. I asked him last season
So I
or
was about
two
to say,
seasons ago, yeah, about the yo-yo dribble in particular. He gave me a great answer. Here's the clip.
CP, you've been watching for as long as I can remember, and it seems like you always come off the screen sometimes. You have that thing where you twist the ball and then you get it back to you. It had the Trace Jackson alley-oop this time. What are you seeing and what does that move kind of enable and give you on the court?
I started doing that back in New Orleans a while ago, and all it is, I mean, sort of being undersized. Obviously, my whole career is trying to get the spots, and because every time you see a guy come off a pick and roll, they throw a pocket pass.
Yeah.
Right, and so all I'm trying to do is make the defender react. Right, he not sure if I'm passing it or not. So if he drops his hand down there, now he's off balance. He can't contest my shot. It's just, I don't know. I started doing it when they tried to switch the basketballs back in 2007. They had switched the basketballs for a little while during the summer. And it was funny because the league tried to say it was the same leather, but it obviously wasn't. And I used to be able to throw the ball out a lot further, and it would like spin and come back to me. Yep. And so when they switched back to the regular basketball, you just do the same thing, just don't throw it out as far.
All right, as you can tell that he kind of opened up a little bit when people asked him about that signature move because he's been doing it all the way back to his New Orleans Hornets days. Hunter, give us your third guy. What's your next signature move?
definitely, man. Real fast back to CP. You could tell he lights up when good questions are asked. So shout out to you for that. And you're right, with him being able to get his shot off, doesn't need to be square. When I think of shooters getting square, it's JJ Redick, it's Cam Johnson, who just got traded to Denver. They're going to be crazy, by the way. One of their opponents in the West, probably in this upcoming playoffs, is going to be the Lakers, and that brings me to my third. That's Austin Reeves. His ability, so we all know that he can create space, get to the rim, and it hasn't always been as that primary ball handler in LA. I mean, we've seen LeBron defer to him at times. Now Luka's there, but his ability as maybe a secondary shot creator to just create space and get downhill. My favorite move from him, he's got a behind the back move, and he is so good at directing his dribble. So he can go behind his back and get exactly where he wants off that. That opens up so many things. The floater game for him, 46% from there, 53% at the rim, or 63%, I'm sorry. and his ability to counter off that guard, like what am I trying to say? Bring the double and then pass off that. He averaged almost 6 assists per game this year. That's the most in his career. But his ability really to attack. I mean, the video of him crossing Giannis comes to mind. The ability, I mean, when you heard him, I think you went on Old Man in the Three and said, everyone in the gym, I know what this feels like. They want to guard the white boy. And he's like, well, it's going to be hell. I can't really say the same. I might hit you with one or two little euros. That's all I got. But his ability to put the ball behind his back, use that almost as a space creator just in itself. It's incredible to watch. It's a really fun aspect of his game.
Yeah, Austin Reeves is just one of those guys who you can tell he worked on his fundamentals, also worked on his technique. And, first time, we're like 10 minutes into this podcast, and you're going to hear the word bag come into play
Yeah.
here because, like you said, he's not using the behind the back, not always to create separation, but to use it as a setup move for what's coming next. And as you said, he can put it exactly where you want it or he wants it on the basketball court to be able to get him to that jumper, step back or blow by you, or as you said, find the guy and play make. Okay, that's Austin Reeves. And you talked about how technical he was, the behind the backs, the step backs. I'm going to someone who just gets it out the mud. He does it dirty. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look sexy, but he was just in the NBA Finals doing it to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is Pascal Siakam with his back down, midi, fadeaway, or turnaround. It's not pretty, like I said. He gets it, finds a smaller defender. Even on Giannis, he can still get them off. And what Pascal's able to do is, with his wingspan, just back you down, get to his spot, know exactly where his kill spot is, turn around and hit the jumper. When you see a guy like Pascal in the Indiana offense that's so fast, so run and gun, but then they have a great wrinkle. Throw it down to him. He can get you a midi bucket. What comes to mind when you think about Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, you touched on a little bit the ability to, yeah, we're gonna play super fast, score 110 plus points a game. But if we're in a drought, we know this guy can get us a bucket. We know he can score with his back to the basket. If they bring the double, he can pass out, facilitate the offense, operate as a hub if needed. But man, his ability to whether it's he could kick the leg sometimes, do a little Dirk in there, but nah, I love that move, man.
And he creates a lot of separation with his elbows sometimes. And it's funny because I think Brandon Miller, talking about Brandon again, had this kind of problem where, he's a Paul George disciple. And Paul George loves to use that kind of push off on the snatch back, on the pullback. But Paul George doesn't extend the arm. He just has it there as kind of a guard. Brandon Miller was extending the arm and in result getting called for offensive fouls. And Pascal Siakam's case, he's using his elbow, but not clearing space with the elbow. He's just using it as a buffer in order to give him that sliver of space in order to rise up for a deadly mid-range shot. So we've both done three each, and we have honorable mentions before we hop out of here. Hunter, give us your honorable mention for NBA signature moves.
Definitely, man. You mentioned bag work, and that just identifies Naz Reid, in my opinion. I mean, just signed, I think it's 5 years, 125 million to stay with the Wolves. His in and out dribble to create space, man. I mean, you like I go back to the Jelly fan back in the day. He comes into the league undrafted, one of the few players on the Wolves roster now that I mean that signed an actual free agent deal. Most of their guys are through trade. But yeah, his in and out dribble, his ability to create space, get to the rack. It's if you want to watch a big man go to work, just look up Nas Reed dribble moves. And like Jay said, if you go on Shot Creator, you can watch all of his drives. It's incredible. His ability to he could start in triple threat, go anywhere he wants on the floor. He can even get to the step back if he wants, although he didn't shoot it that well this season. But his ability really to get to the hole, the in and out dribble is so fun to watch.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that Nas Reed was a member of Jelly Fam. They called
Yep.
him Big Jelly because like the point guards in New York and the point guards in the Upper East Side of the country, they kind of relied on the layups as a flash move where they weren't dunkers. It's kind of weird thinking back. I'm going off on a tangent a little bit where Hoop mixtapes, Seventh Woods, Miles Bridges,
Oh man,
Meek Monk, right? You haven't heard that name in a
Seventh
while.
Woods.
It was
Wow. Yeah.
it was all about who could be the highest flyer, who could dunk the hardest, who could posterize the most. That was like the 2010s, mid to late 2010s style of Hoop Mixtape. And then you got the Jelly fam coming in where they were below the rim players. They focused on the artistry of basketball, and the finesse of basketball. And that's where the Jelly was created. And we can still see one of the last disciples in the NBA in Nas Reed still getting those off.
Yeah, 6'9", hitting you with tween cross into whatever spot he is. I mean, it's just like watching Kevin Durant out there. It's fun to watch, man.
Absolutely. And then my last honorable mention, I kind of touched on it earlier, but I just want to go back to it because we saw it in the Spectrum Center that Stephon Castle, that D cell step, that rip through, it's incredible how polished his game is already as a rookie. And going into the draft, I didn't think that he was a necessarily polished guy, that he had all these things in his bag, but he does. And it's great to see him use his strength, his quickness, his change of pace in order to leverage defenders to his will. Hunter, thank you for hopping on for these NBA signature moves. If you think of any more in the comments, please let us know. And if you have any more video ideas, let us know. But more videos coming. Shot creator, the you are the GOAT. You are the best thing I've ever seen. Hunter, any last words?
Nah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. It's fun to do.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll see y'all later. Peace.